is what goes underneath. You all know me and why I'm talking to you, but what you also may not know about me is that I have a past as a cosplayer. I don't have a present as a cosplayer in America because have you ever tried getting costume into the amount of international baggage allowance they give you? It's not fun. I can get these in because these fold flat, but serious costume, no, although to be fair, I could probably have got that dress, I know I could have got that dress on the ride into exactly the same space as this book, because that's what it does. I've done all kinds of costuming. My costuming history started, according to my mother, when I was 3 years old, and I began to make historic dress for dolls. But when I saw Star Trek, I was lost, hook, line and sinker. 12th of July, 1969, I became a Trekkie. And one of the great things about being a Trekkie is that even if your fandom is just starting, as ours was in Britain, you very soon find opportunities to make and wear costume. So I started making costume very early. And as you can see, in some cases in my early Trek costume, as with Carolyn Palomas from Who Mourns for Adonais, the pink, you don't actually wear very much under costume at all. That doesn't mean that it's not important what you do wear under costume. One of the great drawbacks of that costume, I'll come to later, I had no idea of till I came to make it. I went on to make costume of all sorts for different fandoms. I was working on a very early Marvel fandom model in the picture with my dear friend Barbara on the other side. I was a version of Valkyrie from the 1980s.
Wow.
She was the 1940s Black Widow. Really, really hot stuff there. We just had a lot of fun researching costume, doing costume, playing around with costume in science fiction fandom, in all sorts of different fandoms. And we also did historical dress, as you can see from the photo above, shot at Boscon in 1977. We went to their Regency Ball, determined to dress appropriately. So, the most fun you can have with costume is when you are so comfortable in it that you feel as though it's your clothes. And the only way to achieve that is by understanding and modelling the underwear you need for your outfit. Now, men sometimes have it easy in costume. I'm going to talk a little bit about historical dress and male and female historical dress, just to give you an idea. Most male costumes for most of history are either tunics and loincloths, or they go over shirts and underwear. Tunics and loincloths. The Meiji era men, in that authentic photo of a family from the 1890s, are all wearing Western style clothes. As you can see, they've invested fully in the three-piece suit, the collar and tie, and they're probably envying their father, who is sitting there in his kimono and his undershirt and his loincloth, perfectly comfortable in the heat of Japan, despite subjecting his sons to the horrors of Western dress, because he wanted them to be modern young people and up to date with this world. But you notice also that he's keeping his daughters in Japanese costume. He doesn't want his girls wearing the sort of clothes these fast Western women are wearing, with skirts that sometimes show ankles, and stockings embroidered to call attention to ankles, and God forbid, corsets emphasizing the waist and the breasts. A well-bred Japanese young lady was essentially tubular under her kimono, and a well-bred Japanese man didn't try and find out if things were any different. But in the Regency, men were totally different. And although some of Regency men did wear corsets, they got a bit portly, and as time goes on, everybody spreads. Some resorted to corsets, but it was a point of pride with many men to show off, as with that illustration, that they didn't need a corset, that they were still lithe, trim-waisted, long-legged, svelte young men. But they did invent tailoring tricks to enhance this impression. As you can see, that beautiful coat on the front of one of my favourite historical novels has padded shoulders, and puffed raised sleeves, and wide frogging that emphasises the width of the chest and narrows down towards the waist. And it also has flared skirts. They're doing everything they can to say here is a guy with a perfect classical Greek triangular upper torso, all the while just pretending that he's just wearing normal men's clothes. And it's tricks like that that you can use. By the way, gentlemen, let's get one question out of the way here. To box or not to box? Do you wear genital protection under your costume or not? Generally, I say yes you do, whatever happens. For one thing, you never know what sort of crazy-ass people you're going to get trying to pick a fight with you, and not all of them are very good with their weapons. You do not want your household treasures demolished by an incautiously aimed cloud-striped sword, or even just somebody turning around too fast with an unfortunate projecting weapon. The other thing is that many gentlemen find it's more convenient to have an ambiguous and amorphous shape such as a box gives you than to have a highly specific shape which might cause embarrassment under lighter costume. So I would generally say, gentlemen, whatever era costume you're wearing, whatever character you're playing, unless you have a good reason not to, invest in a sports box, wear it under your clothes. Trust me, the day will come when somebody turns around with a 5-foot bow staff with a large padded knob on the end, incautiously, and you will be standing behind them, and you will send up a prayer of thanks to the Kami for me. But Japanese menswear can appear really crazy. And this is an authentic Muromachi era outfit of about 1600. And as you can see, they've gone Christian fashion big time. They've adopted the Tudor ruff, and they've done it really well. A lot of guys who were fashionable back then, the young bucks, the trendies, like to adopt little bits of Western fashion to say, look how sophisticated I am, I can do what these foreigners do with the best of them, but they're still wearing the same simple underpinnings that their fathers are wearing, an undershirt, a basic underkimono, and a loincloth. Women have got a lot more choices commercially available when it comes to wearing crazy clothes, and men often have to adapt. If you look at the fabulous Tim Curry, I take every opportunity to put the fabulous Tim Curry into any presentation I do, and particularly this one, because I actually saw the fabulous Tim Curry as Frankenfurter live on stage in the first London stage production of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It was a very small theatre, I was as close to Tim Curry's knees as I am to yours. Forgive me for saying that it was more interesting being close to Tim Curry's knees, particularly in fishnets. But I mean, what an outfit! And all of it adapted from burlesque queen clothing and drag clothing from the very early days of the drag scene in London. Another quick tip, gentlemen, unless you are lucky enough to know some Amazonian women, don't even try and buy your drag in women's clothing stores. Go online, there are specialist shoe stores that will help you out with your size. There are specialist underwear stores with all sorts of great advice. Trust to the market and you will prevail. But we really have to think about this, because although Tim is wearing a very scanty costume indeed there, you will notice that Tim is looking perfectly discreet. There are no stray hairs poking out of his underwear, and again I was close enough to attest to that. There were no stray hairs poking out of his underwear. There are no unfortunate bulges distracting the audience from his superlative performance and his incredible vocal range. His underwear is perfectly pitched for his role. This is key to every costume you will ever do. If the underwear is not perfectly pitched for the role, your costume will suffer. Now, menswear in Tudor time, which is my favourite fashion period, had already sussed a lot of those tailoring tricks that we use today. We use them in a more restrained way now, but if you look at those two pictures of Henry VIII there, he is giving big masculinity. He is giving massive masculinity. Look at those big shoulders. The Regency just did pathetic little shoulder pads. He does shoulder pads on his tunic underneath. Then he does shoulder pads in the sleeves of his doublet to make his sleeves even bigger. But notice that he also does that incredible wide collar, which he sets back like this to sit above the shoulder pads of his shoulders. So he looks as though his actual shoulders are a good 8 inches each side, wider than they are. He's saying, I am mad. See me fill any doorway you care to point me at, girl. I am male. And then there's the Tudor equivalent of the box. Or alternatively, the Tudor equivalent of the sock drawer, the codpiece. That is the equivalent of show-off skin-tight pants or 2 pairs of socks stuffed down your undies. Tudor men had codpieces made in escalating sizes. There were codpiece wars at courts all over Europe. Not only who had the biggest, but also who had the fanciest. Have you got a jewel striking cobra on your codpiece in embroidery? Well, I am going to have a Welsh dragon on my codpiece in 3D, complete with wings. Do you think that you can entice the ladies to look at your codpiece? When I open this cunning little pouch at the front and produce my sugared almonds to share with them, they are going to be interested in exploring my codpiece. This is no word of a lie. These are actual fashion truths from the late 1500s. Now, you'll also notice that Henry is a big chap. Despite his beard, you can see he's getting a wee bit jowly. And Henry was massively sensitive about this because in his young day, he was widely acknowledged to be the most beautiful prince in the whole of Europe. Now, England at the time wasn't a major power that his daughter Elizabeth made it. It was quite a minor country. So there was no reason for people to flatter him. They flattered the French prince. They flattered the Italian counts. But Henry just was so drop-dead gorgeous that if he walked in this room, if you imagine Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston in one body with double charisma, that was Henry Tudor as a prince and a young king. And he dressed to show it off. Tight pants, tight tights, grey doublets, slashed shirts. He knew he was beautiful and he did the works. And when you think about having that level of beauty and then coming to, all right, King of England, but a really fat old guy in padding, that's tough. So Henry used other tricks to suggest that he was still young and slender. And if you look at those massive dark surcoats that he's wearing with their massive shoulders and their massive flared hems, and then you look at the waist ties above his surcoat, above his codpiece, relatively his waist has become much smaller. Relatively, he is still a slim guy wearing a really big coat to cover his impressive shoulders. So he's both Bruce Banner and the Incredible Hulk in the same body. How does the Hulk never dematerialize his pants in the comics? I always wonder about that. Can you buy pants so stretchy that Bruce Banner can wear the same pants as the Incredible Hulk? These are questions that cosplayers need answered. The Tudors were very savvy about how to maximize the impact of their costume through underwear display, through using tailoring tricks, and through surface display. You notice Henry is glittering like a Christmas tree with all his jewels there. You're going to say, my, your majesty, what big jewels you've got. And then you're going to say, my, your majesty, what a big chest you've spread them on. And before you know where you are, you're the next royal mistress. It's, you know, it's simple stuff. Now, all over outfits can be great, and foam and warblow enable great kings. But the heavier and the more enveloping a costume, like Henry back there, the more you will sweat. Now you notice he's wearing beautiful linen showing at his neck and his wrists. He has a superb shirt on under that doublet, and the lining is of breathable, flexible material, so he's good. But let's say that you are wearing a chainmail bra. Now I am going to tell you why you shouldn't in a minute, but I am also going to tell you that if you're wearing anything metal against your skin, I include jewellery, what will happen if that metal gets very, very hot indeed? It will not be pleasant. It will not be fun. You will lose a strip of skin. You need cool, light, absorbent underwear under every single outfit, both to protect your skin from long-term damage and to protect the inside of the outfit. Because if you have made one of these things, that doesn't wash easy. That has to be relined rather than washed. Because if you put that level of jewelling and embroidery in a Tudor-type wash tub, you have lost your investment, which is probably, incidentally, in that doublet alone, Not the outfit, just the doublet, the equivalent of a couple of years' salary for a skilled craftsman. So you don't want your clothes getting your bodily sweat all over them. Linen you can wash, linen is cheap, you do your linen. Also, of course, your leather jacket is on the bare skin above that very unfortunate chainmail bra. Your leather jacket is effectively being progressively ripped by tiny chunks of chainmail. Because unless your chainmail is very expensive and each link has been superbly hammered, riveted, welded and filed, you have the equivalent of a tiny little pair of tweezers on every one of those links, ripping away at the lining of your expensive outer costume. But you have something even worse. And the rule I am about to tell you is the only rule you have to remember in cosplay. It's even more important than the one about peeing that we'll come to later. Do not ever, under any circumstances, wear 3 materials unless you have something against your skin. And those 3 materials are skin-tight leather, skin-tight PVC, and chainmail. Skin-tight leather and skin-tight PVC breathe. They form a natural bond with the sweat on your skin, which essentially is costume superglue. When the great Diana Rigg was playing her breakthrough role on TV, Mrs. Emma Peel, in the British series The Avengers, she spent most of the show in skin-tight leather and skin-tight PVC, and very good she looked in it. But the first time she wore it was very nearly the last, because they did not follow the golden rule of leather and PVC. You cover every inch of your bare skin in talcum powder. If you try and rip off skin-tight leather or PVC, you will take skin with it. If you are fortunate, you will not take much skin with it, but you will need 2 people to lever that costume off your body, and you will scream like a child the whole time it happens. There's no shame in this, you just will. If somebody really wanted to torture somebody viciously, I think they'd put them in a skin-tight PVC catsuit with nothing under it, and then peel it off very slowly. Torturers, you're missing a trick here, you could do with it. But chainmail is infinitely worse. Why? Well, think what chainmail is. Chainmail is a series of metal rings formed by curling metal around a rod and then either filing or hammering the rings together. If you go on to weld your rings and smooth down the welds, you triple the cost of your chainmail. Because that has to be done as each ring is assembled, and it takes longer than it does to assemble a ring to skin-proof it. So let's assume that you've got your ordinary regular chainmail, ring mail, even if it's only 4 on 1, which is 4 rings on each ring. You have, in the space of an inch on your skin, 5 tiny pairs of tweezers. Think about that for a minute. You have put on a chainmail hauberk over your bare skin. Did you really want that hair? Will you ever need to pay for a Brazilian again as long as you live? Did you really want that nipple in extreme cases? I have actually peeled chainmail with the help of 2 other people off an incautious young lady who wanted to look sexy. It takes you a long time to look sexy after you've worn chainmail over your bare skin. So, remember this for me. Promise me that you will never, ever, ever, ever wear chainmail unless you have at least a shirt underneath it. The padded hauberk is much better. The other reason, of course, for wearing a padded hauberk and a chainmail is if you actually need to fight in chainmail, and I used to do full contact fighting, and somebody hits chainmail and breaks the links, they drive them into your skin. It is infinitely better if they drive them into your padding, because your padding repairs much easier than your skin does. I actually once sat with an incautious young fighter in intensive care while the doctor carefully tweezed 3 broken links out of the abrasion above his ribs. It was not fun. For the doctor, it was fascinating. He'd never done that before. He said, we haven't had an injury like that in this hospital since 1426. So we now have learned the one infallible, unbreakable rule. We're now going to learn why that rule is unbreakable. What we do as costumers is we are artists, and our body or the body of another costumer is our canvas. Costume, movement, interpretation skills, they are our paint. They bring alive the idea we want to convey. Are we painting a portrait of a character? Our body is our instrument. Are we making a beautiful, evocative idea? Our body is our instrument. And people have done this since the earliest times. You can see here two different interpretations of the Cretan snake goddess. The Cretan snake goddess wore her ritual clothing for particular worship patterns. And they function very like the worship clothes that you see choirs wearing in evangelical or gospel churches. They had particular eye-catching functions with big sleeves. They had to be easy to move in, and they had to make the right amount of sound for the situation. Underwear makes them easier to carry, makes them more comfortable, and makes the silhouette more defined. That Cretan priestess's tight bodice, which was made of leather, and therefore did have a lining under it, nips her waist right in, and her stiff leather apron sits over her padded hips on the skirt and makes her hips bigger, so she looks uber hot and uber sexy. She probably only uncovered her breasts when she was actually doing religious ritual, because you think Crete, think of Texas but surrounded by highly reflective water. You get tanned so fast with exposed skin. So I think the priestess, whose white skin was a tribute to the goddess, and who wore white face paint for the same tribute, probably covered her breasts till she got into the shaded temple, and then let them go to do her worship. But those skirts are extra special, because those skirts are tiered for a good reason, and they're tiered in strips that overlap and move. From the findings that we got left in Cretan temples, we know that tiny metal sequins were sewn over those strips. So when the priestess moved in her ritual sacred dance, those metal bits would chime and make a tiny trail of music following her. She probably also used perfume so that a tiny trace of scent would follow her. She must have been a perfect worship object. And when you're walking through the halls of the convention, those are things you can use too. You can use sound in your costume. You can use scent in your costume. You can be the avatar of the goddess costume by employing all those different tricks. So here's the same techniques in a different era, the Tudor era. Reshaping figures using proportion and volume just like the guys do, but also using corseting. Now these are two pictures from two different stages of her life of my favourite woman in English history, the great Queen Elizabeth I, our greatest queen ever until our present monarch, and one of the very few queens to have led her troops into battle. Elizabeth, aged 15, in that magnificent demure little picture, is saying, "I'm a really good girl, me. I've got a holy book here. I've got a holy book open on the lectern. Yes, I am ridiculously well educated. I already read 8 languages and am fluent in writing in 6 of them. But I'm religious. And my clothes are really plain and really modest. My neckline is really high, but oops, look how wide those shoulders are. You can see that perfect expanse of creamy teenage shoulder. So she's both modest and drop-dead sexy at the same time. And her headdress, you'll notice, puts all her hair back under that hood with those 2 arches of metal away from her neck. So the length and the beauty of her neck and her shoulders are emphasized by her jewels and by the fact that there's nothing distracting from them. Her sleeves are incredibly wide at waist level, which makes her waist look tinier, and her girdle drops down lower, which makes her waist look longer and therefore also tinier. Now when you get on to the second portrait, which was later in her reign, when she was a mature woman, as you can see, she's using the same tricks, but in a totally different style. She's wearing incredibly expensive and incredibly fine embroidered gauze over her shoulders and a much lower neckline. But still, she's fully covered up. She's modest, she's demure, she's very expensive because of all that hand embroidery. And the hand embroidery runs on down her sleeves. So you can look at that and you can see her saying, "I am England." And England is artistic and cultivated and wealthy. I am wearing England. She's still showing off the length of her neck with that great jeweled collar and that very high ruff. And the whiteness of her face above emphasizes the whiteness of her linen. They match. So that tiny waist at the bottom of that tiny bodice, again, further emphasized by her spreading skirts. This is all about, we are very feminine. When I was 15, I was the definition of learned femininity. Now I'm older. Now I'm maybe not quite as nubile, but now I'm Queen of England and I am the definition of a different kind of femininity. I am the definition of ultimate, historic, fabled, mythologized femininity. I am Gloriana. This whole nation is in love with me. England is my husband, she said, and she was presenting at her best for her husband at all time. In fact, if you read her life, when she was in her own private apartments in her rare time off from queening, she wore very quiet, very modest clothes with very few jewels, and very pale, very simple colors, grey, beige, soft blue. She wasn't a display person by nature, but being queen was her job, and she did her job better than almost any other monarch before or since. Oh, I have to tell you through that book, Janet Arnold, greatest ever costume historian. Greatest costume historian who ever lived. That book is her investigation of Queen Elizabeth I's wardrobe inventories. It changed my life. It's revelatory. So let's look at what goes under the later Tudor Elizabethan style. There are two kinds of farthingale that hold out your skirts. And if you've ever worn late medieval dress, you know why holding out your skirts is revolutionary. Medieval dress, all that great weight of fabric hangs around your legs. You can't run. You can't dance very fast. You can't jump. You can't move very fast unless you pick up your skirts and carry them, and then you're indecent. A farthingale holds that entire weight of fabric away from your legs. The bell-shaped Spanish farthingale is great to dancing because you can actually make it swing like a bell. The French farthingale is wonderful to dancing. Why? Because aside from freeing you up as a woman to move more freely than you have ever moved, these are mechanisms of seduction. Now you consider the dance. You consider that you're wearing your petticoat, your kirtle, and your farthingale all together. Around your legs there are only your beautiful, delicately embroidered silk stockings and the hem of your filmy, delicate chemise, which is your underwear. When you start that farthingale swinging like a bell, as you delicately kick your legs forward in the dance, what is going to happen? What is going to happen is that every gentleman in the room will see your ankles. And if you are really energetic, possibly even your knees. And if you are very unwise and you sit down on the back hem of your farthingale, everything above your knees. Rule 2, never sit down on the back canes of a farthingale. What you do is you lift them up behind you and drop them on the chair. And a French farthingale, a drum farthingale, was even more fun because with those long fronted corsets, you had a rigid wooden or metal bus down the center of the corset. And it became the fashion in dance for a gentleman to put one hand under your bus and hoist you into the air. There was a Spanish dance called the Volta, an Italian dance called the Volta, which started this first. It was scandalous. Not only did a gentleman get to hook his hand under your bus, which just sits just about the level of your genitals, which was a come-on if ever there was a come-on. But as he throws you in the air, your farthingale flies up around you and drops as you land. So once again, ankles, knees, possibly a flash of pride. Are you surprised that every Tudor who was vaguely well-to-do learned to dance at the age of 6 and kept it up till they could no longer walk? Dancing is sex on legs, and costume facilitates that. So we've looked at 3 main strategies for using underwear for costume. There's false perspective, manipulation of volume and scale. Hold it out, make it bigger, make it more rigid. There's body modification, either temporary or permanent. Use a corset, use false perspective and nip it in. And there's apparent nakedness, shock value. Make your costume disappear. And these three ladies are kindly helping me to reveal it. Elizabeth I in her coronation portrait of 1559 is showing us how to use false perspective. That enormous skirt, that enormous cloak, and inside it on a contrast lining, that tiny bodice. She is saying, look at me, I am a willow one. I am so delicate you could break me between your hands, except that I am fucking England and you try it, we will have you. So she's doing the fairy queen, she's doing femininity, magic, and daring all at once. The fabulous Mae West, the first woman to run her own production company, the first woman to write her own scripts, the first woman to deliberately curate a scandalous image to make money, so that the punters kept paying and she kept laughing and she did exactly what she wanted. In the heat's on. Now then Mae is showing how you pinch it in. She's showing just what the Tudors did. Great corseting, wide shoulders, big expanse of naked flesh above the cleavage. Grown men. And Dita Monteith in 2017 is actually wearing see-through, very flesh-coloured panties and bra. But you would not know it with the lighting she employs on that stage. Dita is pretending nakedness because, like Mae, Dita knows that the customers think they're getting more than you should legitimately give them. They will give you more than you could possibly ask for without you actually having to take any clothes off. These girls had it all. They understood costume underwear in ways that I learn from every day of my life. Now let's talk about volume and scale. Let's talk a bit about my own costuming. Because way back in 1982, when Jerry Anderson Fan Club, Fanderson, had a convention, I decided that my other half and I were going to cosplay Troy Tempest and Atlanta Shaw from his favourite Jerry Anderson puppet program, Stingray. And these are two separate shots from that convention where Steve is with me in one of them and with two old friends of ours playing Phones, his hydrophone operator, and Marina, the girl from the sea. And I want you to look at the contrast between my version of Steve in Atlanta and our friend's version of Phones. Because remember, we were portraying puppets. We were portraying traditional string puppets. Creatures with solid wood bodies, jointed at the waist, but flat, and basically solid three-dimensional. Creatures with legs made of multiple joints, so basically not solid, multiply jointed, collapsing around the joints. I decided to build the jackets and the costumes on a solid horsehair foundation so that they would look like the wooden carved upper bodies of the puppets. But for the sleeves and the trousers, I built them with only soft lining so that they would mimic the way that puppet jointed arms and legs join at the elbows and the knees. Now, as you can see, the guy who did Phones, although he did a brilliant costume, skipped the horsehair interlining. I wish he'd asked me, because he said he didn't feel confident doing the tailoring, and it's what I love. But you can see that because he's quite a skinny guy, the costume has collapsed onto his body, because he hasn't used the underpinning correctly, and so he's lost that priceless effect. The lesson to take away from this one, construction methods are also underwear. Anything you don't see on the surface of your costume is underwear. And if you get your underwear right for the effect that you can see on the screen, you will get your character right. Steve and I actually moved like puppets right through that presentation because we had our character right. So, what do? We hold it out, we pitch it in, we shape the cloth. And these are farthingales shaping the cloth in even further ways. That fabulous Rose of Versailles, Oscar and Rosalie at Comic-Con in 2010. The panniers of the skirt spread it very wide, but they're very narrow. They're a long oval with the waist at the centre point. And the huge advantage of a pannier skirt is you can actually lift either side and fold it up around your ears like wings. This is an inestimable advantage going through a modern doorway, or indeed backing into a modern toilet stall. You ever try and back into a modern toilet stall in a Tudor farthingale? Good luck with that one. Tudor ladies used to pee standing up under their skirts. You learn to do this very quickly in costume. Ladies from 17th and 18th century France could quite easily get into water closets because their clothes were designed that way. And it does bring us to a really important thing about costume. You have to pee. You have to pee at some point. If you're wearing floor costume, you'll have to pee several times. If you're in Texas and drinking enough water, you'll have to pee several times in the course of that costume. Even if you're going on stage at the masquerade, at some stage backstage, you have to pee. Or you have to build in incontinence underwear so that you don't have to pee, at least not visibly. But peeing is vital to success and comfort in costume. And if your costume doesn't pass the pee test, it's really just not gonna work. Unless it's a Tudor fardingale, and then I strongly advise that you pee outside or otherwise on an absorbent surface, because when you walk away and leave a little puddle everywhere you are, it's a dead giveaway. Here's holding it out through volume, shaping the body with padded shoulders and padded chests and corsets. These are two contemporary fashion pictures, but you can see how brilliantly they work. And also, look at that wig. Look at the fantastic way she has used her hair to emphasize the width of her shoulders and the delicacy of her neck. Look at the fantastic way she's used her sunglasses to make her features small as a manga character. This girl is playing with proportion in masterly ways. That is something that we can all only respect and emulate. Men do it too. Look at these two very different, wonderful tailored suits. Now first of all, notice those shoulders. They're both padded shoulders, but one shoulder drops softly. It's an Indiana Jones thing. It's a 1930s guy. It's a professor at a college. It's a guy who is masculine, but not in your face. He likes fashion, he pads his shoulders, but he doesn't want to elbow you out of the way with his shoulders. He likes his lapels, but his lapels, although they're wide and emphasize his chest width, are quite soft. Look at the guy on the other side. His shoulders are tables. He could serve drinks off those shoulders. They are straight in your face, they are wide, they are sharp. They say, come near me and I will touch you. And that's echoed in the message of his collar, come with me and I will spear you. So two suits, both unmade, both beautifully tailored, both sending totally different messages. And this is really important to adapt vintage clothing for your costume. If you buy clothing that already sends the message you want to send, you do a better job and save yourself a barrel of hot trouble. This is one of my favorite 20th century outfits. This is the Christian Dior bar dress, which is currently in London at the Great Dior exhibition, which I photographed there. And that dress is a miracle of engineering. It was first shown in Paris in 1951. Now, rationing was still in place after World War II. Models are skinny anyway. After living on very, very little food for the 6 or 7 years of the German occupation, models were even skinnier. But even allowing for that, that suit is a masterpiece of engineering. The internal waist on that suit is 17 inches. And it is achieved by a combination of boning, cutting, and absolutely wonderful elastic support underwear, which have just become available. But looking at the suit, all you see is the fabulous proportion of the shoulders, the softness of the breast, like a pigeon's chest, the softness of the skirt, wide shoulders making hips look smaller, peplum making waist look smaller, peplum making waist look smaller. Details guide the exact same colour on the bodice, so as not to distract from the effect. This is a masterclass in playing with proportion. So when you are trying to make a costume that makes you look maybe more hourglass than you are, study history, study the great couturiers, study Christian Dior. You will see so many tricks that you can use that will play with the way your proportions are perceived and give you the impact you want for your costume in every way. Of course you can wear corsets, you can wear spandex, both men and women. Modern elastic spandex shapewear is absolutely excellent. You can also get corsets in the handmade lingerie style that I love to work with, which can be specifically designed for your costume, specifically at the levels of height on the hip and depth of the chest and depth of the back that you need to wear, specifically designed to incorporate, let's say, support panels for wings, support panels for heavy trays, support panels for extensions above your shoulders. You can do all sorts of things with a good corset, and I encourage people, whatever you're spending on your costume, you probably need to spend the same amount on your corset if the costume needs a corset. Whether it's time or money in construction, you need to make sure that your corset is great. Because if you're comfortable in that corset, that costume will convince the world that you own that character. If you're not comfortable in that corset, you're never going to look as though you belong in that character. Fetish corsets. Extremely useful for costume. A really great fetish corset you need time to build up to. But if you go to a good fetish supplier and you say, I want a corset for waist training, but will reduce my waist by 3, 4, whatever inches, the supplier will sell you a corset that will do that if you follow the instructions. You need to start this 4 to 6 months before the event, because that's how long it takes for a waist training corset to do its job. And you probably need help from a friend who will lace you and unlace you every day. But if you want a particular waist shape and size for a particular costume, a fetish corset is your friend. And you can also look at handmade historical corsets, which have seals, cords, bones, crosses, all sorts of shaping devices. I love this little outline of corsets through history. It gives you an idea of how women's shape has changed. It also gives you an idea of how you can adapt corset shapes to suit your costume. You can see that these are 400 years of very different corset shapes, but they all work superbly for different costumes. Now, make it disappear. This is a cover from a Robert Silverberg novel, Nightwings, with his character Avalea, who wears a pair of wings and nothing else. And this is my friend Paige, who I utilized on the anyway at the 1985 World Cup. Now, she is wearing a pair of 9-foot-long wings, and because the rule at Worldcon is that no costume is no costume, she's also wearing a pair of flesh-colored pants, very small ones. But that has to be a costume. Because there is nothing on Avalea, as you can see, to allow for a harness to hold that costume, those 9-foot wings are glued to a long patch of skin-colored cloth on her back, which is then glued to her skin. Luckily, you can get very, very good performance glue for holding things to skin, and that's essential. But even given that, those wings are 9 feet long and they are double wings. The drag on the end of those tips was colossal. There was no way that they were going to hold on to her for more than 30 seconds. She only needed 30 seconds to get her. As you can imagine, she looks naked, she's got big wings. How long do you need to make an impact in that situation? 2 seconds. So she had helpers who walked her through the hall to the side of the stage by the goods elevator route, because her wings were too tall to go any other way. Who walked her up to the stage and who held her wings until she was actually on stage. They held for precisely 32 seconds and then they healed up her back, and that was all she needed. She came very close to Best in Show. She got Best Special Effect. Fabulous costume, but it took calculation, it took engineering, it took a lot of trial and error, it took rehearsal. Sometimes naked works. Now, I use the low material on this dress. I use 2 large squares of very, very lightweight, almost see-through nylon, almost bikini point, not white. And I used about 12 meters of wonderful, heavy gold plastic braid, which gave the nylon just enough weight to move the way I wanted it to move. That outfit is held together by 1 hook and eye on the right hip and 1 anchor stitch for the shoulder drape on the left hip. But obviously, when you're moving around a catwalk or a horizontal stair in a very lightweight, very well-weighted outfit, it moves. So I took a really unwise decision. I put a long taut piece of 200-pound breaking strain invisible fishing line from my right shoulder to my left hip. Now this was great while I was on the floor at the masquerade, because you're moving in a certain way. In a dress like that, you're carrying your shoulders back all the time, both because the point of the dress is to make people wonder if they're going to see your breasts, and because carrying your shoulders back makes it almost certain that you see your breasts while pushing you forward. But I made the mistake of staying with the costume for the first half hour of the disco. Now what happens at a disco? You dance, you move, and when you have a 200-pound breaking strain fishing line stretched across the skin of your back, tight, you take off skin on your back. I was high as a kite on the elation of that show, until someone said to me, "Helen, you've got a rash on your back." I did not realise I was peeling the skin on my back. Luckily, none of my other costumes for the weekend actually required me to go backwards, and I was able to just get out of the outfit and get into another one. But I should have thought about the suitability of the costume and the underpinnings for the movement, and I didn't. Luckily, it wasn't quite as bad as wearing chainmail with nothing under. Now this is a wonderful picture from a British Trek con in 1976. This shows lots of women with some of the other masquerade entrants, and this shows the Tice titillation era in action. I don't know how many of you remember Star Trek's great designer, William Ware Tice, who was one of the costume giants of Hollywood. But he had a theory that when making female costume, particularly female alien costume, you had to make slits and angles that let people think that any second the costume was going to slip and they were going to see more than they should. But you had to so engineer the costume that never actually happened. And he lets women, because this in 3 ways. He puts that fabulous slit right across the front of the black breast, so that you think that black girl's muscles and shoulders are typical for her. Also joined because tape was already, and she has tape either side of the opening. And then you look at that off-the-shoulder dress and you think, the minute she raises her arm or now the shoulder slips, you're going to see everything. And of course you are, because the dress is magnificently engineered and it's higher across the back than it is at the front, which gives more equally. And then of course you've got the good old-fashioned scoop-up push-up bra, which always leads people to think they're going to get an eyeful and never actually delivers. So the underwear in those costumes takes the form of little strips of sellotape all the way through to a full lingerie bra, but each bit is perfectly engineered for the costume it's over, and each bit does its correct job. Modern corsets are really useful. As I said, that's me doing the Valkyrie in 1976. I actually like that outfit. I know the modern Valkyrie and the modern Valkyrie is great armour, but there's something about a woman with a wasp waist in gold and wing body armour swinging a sword. I'll tell you a story about buying that corset and you realise why fetish shops are a friend. Barbara and I knew that we needed corsets, and I could make Barbara's corsets. But I needed a corset that I could actually sword fight in because we were doing a skit. So I needed to be able to swing Valkyrie's 1.5 broadsword round my head and impale another character on it. Now this is a challenge when you're wearing a corset. So we thought, who is it who has to move in corsets all the time, really flexibly? Strippers. So Barbara and I went down to Soho, where there are a very large number of strip clothing emporia lined up between strip clubs and usually working late so girls can go and get urgent replacements if they have accidents during the night. So I went into the first shop we came to, and there was a tiny little old lady. She may have been Jewish. She was grey-haired, sweet. She was knitting, sitting behind the counter. And I said to her, I need a corset in which I can swing a sword. And God love her, without missing a beat or dropping a spit, she said, what kind of sword? I knew I was home. And then when I produced the sword, she said, okay, what kind of costume? So I produced the costume drawings and said, right. She said, right, you want a corset with adjustable straps, and I need to give you one with good enough straps that you can run a strap from that bare shoulder point under the costume, so it will angle across the breast secured so you don't have an accident while you're swimming ashore. So she took us into the fitting room and she let us stand there trying on corsets and swinging swords in them and adjusting straps. And I came out with the white corset that you see in that other costume picture there, which was my go-to superheroine corset for the next 15 years. It cost me at the time a month's salary. I had my money back over and over and over. The money you spend on quality underwear, gentlemen and ladies, is never ever wasted if you are a costumer. Buy the best you can get. That costume, incidentally, there is one third of Isaac Asimov's Foundation trilogy. Barbara and our friend Linda in the red and I wanted to do a really quick masquerade costume because we'd done a lot of floor costumes. So we thought, what can we do? We'll do a punk costume. Punk costumes are always popular at British conventions. And we did the Foundation trilogy. Foundation, Second Foundation, Foundation and Empire. Because Barbara was from Yorkshire, we did Foundation and Empire. So she is one of the first people, in fact she may still be the only person, to win a prize at a convention masquerade in a corset wielding a cricket bat. Medieval costume, a Victorian corset under a medieval outfit. This is an actual portrait painted from life. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert loved to give costume balls, and they were the talk of London, and they encouraged a trend for costume balls. But all the time, whatever costume Victoria was wearing, she was a Victorian lady, so she always had a corset underneath, and she always had the very best Victorian corset that she could find. Of course, here's Fatally, cosplaying as A-Kon for Money Girl at Annual USA 2008. Perfect example of how to use a classic mid-20th century Western corset for Helen McCarthy. I've forgotten the water again, and I'm dying. So what's to watch to sum up, because we're coming to the end of our time. Look how one silhouette needs to be comfortable and function effectively in the costume. If you want to put your own spin on the capsule, change the shape and size, that's fine, you still need underwear. Look how one exists in the colours. The internet is great, so is a good bra fitter, so is a high-end store. Go with a friend. Take your costume points, you'll be fine. If you need to build your own underwear, get the best quality fabric, give yourself lots of fitting time, get help fitting. Always fabrics that breathe, always absorb sweat next to the skin, and ask yourself the stupid questions first. Ask yourself those questions. If you can't get around the venue, your costume will attract attention on a site like this where there are lots of photographers outside. Otherwise it's wasted, and if it rains you are so fun. So comprehensively fun. But the single most important point, never, ever put chainmail, tight leather or PVC over bare skin. I've been Helen McCarthy, sharing my ideas on costume underwear. You have been fabulous with your patience with this beautiful setup. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, you can always contact me to talk about costume. I love to talk costume. I can talk costume forever, so feel free. I am very happy to give advice on historical costume. I've made it professionally for a number of years. I still make it for fun. And I'm very happy to recommend books at any time. So please enjoy the rest of the time. Please enjoy your costume. Remember you have to pee. Remember the talcum powder. Thank you.